Margaret from the blog Don't Call It Bollywood, and today I want to talk about film, censorship, politics, controversy inspired by the Padmavati situation. If you've only been following Indian film for a short while, the Padmavati situation may seem very unusual and very exciting. However, if you've been following film for a while, you realize it's only slightly different from the same thing that happens every single time a major film releases. And there's a couple of reasons for this. I'm going to start with wide release, which I have never liked the wide release policy for films, and this is yet another reason not to like it. When you're doing a wide release, you absolutely must get the majority of people in that very first weekend. And the best way to get them all in is to do a massive publicity campaign before the film comes out. Posters, trailers everywhere, tweets, personal appearances, interviews, all kinds of things to make sure this film is what everybody is talking about and thinking about and caring about in the weeks before it releases. Which means a political group can jump in there and siphon off some of your publicity. This is a terrible thing for everybody involved. It's a terrible thing for the filmmakers because they spent all this time and imagination and so on coming up with a good ad campaign, and then somebody else is stealing it from them, basically. The story no longer is go in and see this movie. The story is talk about whatever thing the politicians have come up with for us to talk about revolving around this movie. And it's a terrible thing for the audience because they were all pumped to see this film. That was the point of the publicity campaign after all. And this only works if people are pumped to see the film and care about it. And now they can't because it's become all political in some strange way. And then the final thing is this kind of lets the filmmakers be blackmailed because you can't start from scratch with this publicity campaign. It would be so expensive. So your film has to release on the day it's supposed to release or else you're in big trouble. So what happens a lot, and that's not what the Padmavati situation is, but what will happen a lot is a group will show up 4 or 5 days before the film's scheduled to release, when it's far too late to do anything different. And they will file a complaint that the film offends religious sentiment or something, and there'll be a stay put on the film. And then there'll no doubt be a secret payout, and suddenly the complaint is reversed. And the filmmakers do some small thing to make it appear as though they've addressed the complaint beyond just giving them a payout. For instance, Bilu Barber, the Barbers Association, complained that it was hurtful to the sentiment of barbers. And this all happened like 4 days before the movie was supposed to come out. So they changed the title from Bilu Barber to Bilu, and suddenly the Barbers Association disappeared and they no longer had complaints. So that's a fairly common thing as well, that it's not even a real political complaint or even a real interest in stealing their publicity. It's just an awareness that all of this money has been spent on publicity and the film has to come out, and spending a little bit more to pay off some group so that it can come out is not a big deal. So the different kind of groups, those are the ones that start their complaints not 4 days before the film comes out, but 2-3 weeks before the film comes out. As soon as the publicity campaign really starts and gets underway, suddenly a group will pop up to complain. So the trailer releases, there's a lot of buzz, there's news that a second trailer is coming out, the publicity train has left the station and is well on its way to success. That's when a political group will jump in and try to hop on board the train, essentially. They know the film studio is going to take care of making sure this story is in people's minds moving forward because the studio has another series of trailers and posters and personal interviews coming out. And they know they can benefit from it if they hop on board at this point. This is really terribly unfair because Indian film spends more money on ad campaigns and publicity than probably anything else besides Indian politicians. And it's the thing people like talking about and care about and want to talk about. And all of that is because of what film has done on its own. It's created a product that people love worldwide. It's created publicity campaigns that work in getting people excited. It's done all of this stuff, and it should have the benefit of everything it's done. But instead, this is benefiting the politicians who jump on board and steal from it, essentially. And it's also detrimental to the audience because the audience honestly is excited about this publicity campaign, or else this whole thing wouldn't work. You notice Secret Superstar, nobody jumped on board with that one, and that's because there wasn't as much excitement about the publicity. I mean, yes, it was a good movie and people saw it and so on, but just based on the publicity campaign, it wasn't something people were really talking about or super excited. So they were able to go and see the movie and enjoy it. But if you're really looking forward to a movie, if you're really excited and really talking about it, that's when the politicians are going to jump in and try to take it away from you. Which is just terribly unfair to the audience, that they're being punished for their own enthusiasm, and to the filmmakers, that they're being punished for making a good product that people want to see, and therefore it will be taken from them. The other part of this is the censor board, which is in kind of an odd position. The censor board is actually supposed to protect religious sentiment. That's part of what they're doing. People think of censors in terms of sex and violence. No. The Indian Censor Board actually has a mandate to look into these issues of religious sentiment and political views and so on as presented in films. So in theory, these disputes can't happen because all you would do is file a complaint with the censor board in some way and ask them to look into that aspect of the film, and then they make the decisions. But of course, that's not what's happening. People are out there talking and having opinions, and now the censor board is stuck. So either they agree with them and say, I'm going to cut some parts of the film, and that's not going to be enough because they want the whole film to go away at this point. Or they disagree with them and say, in our expert opinion, there is nothing objectionable here at all. And then everyone's just going to get upset, the film will come out, and theaters will be destroyed, and so on and so forth. Or they do what they did. They suggest a delay. They work with the filmmakers and try to figure out a way to make this happen outside of the period of controversy. And this period of controversy is obviously related to the upcoming elections. Once the elections are over, most likely the controversy will die down because the politicians no longer need to steal publicity from a movie. The other part of this that really irritates me is that besides the censor board, the Indian government has become less and less involved in these disputes. At least that's how it appears to me. I could be wrong. There's no, for instance, police protection offered to theaters. I haven't heard that as part of the conversation. These people are out there making threats, and what's happened in the past is that the police department has stepped up and said, okay, we'll protect the theaters so audience can go see the movies unharmed and theater owners don't have to worry about damage to their property. And that hasn't been happening. There also hasn't been a big statement by any state government saying, I defend free speech. Generally speaking, the government of India, which has benefited enormously from film, just in terms of entertainment taxes, if nothing else, film tickets are taxed like hugely in every state, and they're providing tons of money to the state budget, and yet the state is not stepping up to protect them, which is morally objectionable, but also just sort of short-sighted. Because of how film tickets are taxed, it's in the state's interest to make sure people are still seeing movies. If they're not seeing movies, there's a lot of money that's being lost. So I'm not sure what's going on with that, and I hope that it changes soon. I hope state governments start waking up and going, wait a second, we need to protect those movie theaters, because if we don't protect the movie theaters, we're not making any money off of them. But so far, that's not happening. So far, it's really just the film community on its own that has to try to figure out some way of getting through these periods when the story stops being about their movies and starts being about something else. Anyway, that's how it looks to me. You can agree with me, you can disagree with me. There's a related blog post right below. Leave me a comment there, and I'd love to talk with you. Thanks. Bye.